And thank you guys so much for tuning in and talking to Walk today. I have Brandon Chastain here, also known as Bmcfly. A lot of people know you as that. Awesome, dope. We met through T from No Gun Zone. He shared to me about what your mission was and what you were doing, and I thought that your story was extremely dope because a lot of people, especially our black men, let's just be honest, black men are not very vocal about mental health and sobriety. So to see what you're doing and how you're creating skits and things of that nature and just motivating people, I think is extremely dope. So how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. It's a pleasure to be here on your show.
Yes, thank you. Well, we're just going to jump straight into it. For those that don't know who you are, though, before we jump into it, can you share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, my name is Brandon Chastain. I'm an actor, director, sober messenger, and I'm a motivator. I teach. I am a teacher at Sayre High School.
You are.
So, you know, I'm just proud to be a part of, you know, the community and a part of the world, man, because I'm reaching out to millions, man. So
You are.
I'm just happy. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. And so you are a teacher, and you do teach to you, which is interesting because you had an interest in childhood, and God always brings things full circle, and now you're walking your purpose, and you can understand a lot of things that they've been through because you've been through it.
Absolutely.
So can you share a little bit about your upbringing, if you can, just a little bit as well?
Well, my mother, she was on drugs. My father was on drugs. I was raised by my grandmother. In the 80s, that was the typical story.
It was.
I have a sister that, you know, my mother and my father had, me and my sister. And, you know, it was rough growing up. It was good times and it was bad times. You know, better than some, worse than others, right? Just growing up in a city neighborhood. I'm from West Philly. My mother's from Philly, but my father's from New York.
Okay.
So I always tell people, man, I got the hustle of a New Yorker and the heart of a Philadelphian. And that's what they gave me genetically. When my mother got off drugs, she started to sell drugs.
Okay.
And she taught me how to sell drugs too when I was 13. And from there, you know, my mother met my stepfather and he introduced me into being a man for the little time that he was around. And I thought, you know, I still always played both sides of the fence growing up. You know, smoking weed, peer pressure, fighting, trying to be a part of the in crowd. But I also wanted to be a part of the education, you graduated, you going to college crowd as well. So I always was trying to prove a point. And I graduated from Overbrook High School and I went straight to Lincoln University, graduated in 4 years. And I got shot when after I graduated. I graduated in May, and I got shot July 4th. And that's when my addiction of Percocet started. When they prescribed me Percocets, when the doctors prescribed me Percocets, I never understood Percocets. I never knew what Percocets were. And I was on and off for 4 years, but 2008 to 2018 that's where it just went rampant.
And so actually, let's kind of jump back into when you talked about the relationship with your mom, because for me, like I went through a lot relational-wise because my father wasn't there.
Right.
So how did that affect you relational-wise? Because, you know, that's your mom, you love your mom, but then you're still dealing with that spirit of rejection because your mom, she wasn't necessarily rejecting you, but she had her own issues.
Well, right.
So how did that affect you with your relationship?
Right. My mother had me at 14.
Oh, okay.
So, and then by her being on drugs, it kind of like distanced us away. With a young age, and she's working on her.
Right, absolutely.
And I'm still a kid.
Right.
And then as I get older, I start to realize who she is, or who I thought she was at the time. And I had my resentments, and I'm going through things as well. And it was a rough patch. Because at one point, it's like, yo, I sell drugs for you. But then you want me to listen to you.
That's good. That's very interesting.
Like, you know, it's like it was like confusing.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, when my stepfather and my mother, you know, broke up, that's when things started to go downhill.
Yeah,
for real.
because he was now gone.
Yeah, so he was around for like towards like definitely my high school years. Yeah. So it was kind of rough for me and my mother, though. My mother passed away 4 years ago. So now that she's passed away, I was thinking about how, I wish I could have spent more quality time.
Yeah.
Like I wish her and I had a better relationship in the beginning, because towards the end, which I didn't know she was going to die, things started to get better.
Wow. Well, isn't it cool that God will give us those moments, though? Like the year before my grandmother passed away, me and my mom got in this real bad argument. I ended up living with my grandma. But we were like glue, and she ended up passing away. So he gave me that moment because you know how you run it. You don't really go see your grandparents like that. So I was able to hold on to that. So I understand what you mean by that.
Yeah.
And so as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about kids today, where they're going through that with their parents, and you start to realize that, who you thought your parents were, they aren't. Like even with my dad, when he came back around, I started to understand, like, oh, he's a crackhead. Like I didn't realize that going, I didn't see it, but then I started to get it when I was older. Do you feel as though that would actually kind of push you out into both sides of the field, into the streets, and kind of like looking for love in a sense in all the wrong places? Because the streets fake love you. They make it seem like they love you, and you're really just not getting it at home.
Right.
So do you feel as though that's what you were looking for, and can you kind of relate to what the youth are doing now? Because that's really what I feel like they're doing.
Well, when I was confused. I was confused in so many ways. I was confused with my parents not being around. I was confused with, my aunts. I was raised with my two aunts. One got me by 7 years, and I'm older than one by a couple months. So, I got my grandmother, I got my grandfather, which is not my biological grandfather, but he's the only grandfather that I knew. And he had his issues with my mother. My mother caused a lot of issues with her addiction. And then it's like me being a child, me being confused, trying to figure it out. So I wanted to get next to somebody that I attracted to, right? It's like, while I love the money, he seemed like the cool kid. He seemed like the guy that's getting all the fame and the glory. But then you get a lot of other fame and glory when you playing basketball and you got good grades and, people cheering for you in high school. So it's like, which way do I go? So that's the confusion right there. So that's why I still went to college, but I still played the streets too.
That's an interesting point. And so now that you looking back at that and you're seeing on this side and you're teaching the kids, what advice would you say to yourself, seeing how even though you were playing both sides are actually helping to where you are? Because if you didn't play both sides, you wouldn't be able to relate to them the way that you're able to relate to them now, because this is the lives that they're living. So what advice would you give to yourself in that moment of feeling like you were confused? I don't really know if you were confused. I think God was just molding and shaping you at the same time, whether you realized it or not. What advice would you give to yourself in that moment?
Well, you have to be transparent. Like school district doesn't allow you to be transparent, because school is based on, it's the pipeline to disaster. But I'm a part of the 4% of African American males that are teachers in the United States. Philadelphia is the 5th largest city, but it's the poorest city in America out of the largest cities, right? And the school district is the worst. So I look at me and say, well, I know the culture. I know how to talk without being vulgar, without being, ignorant. Listen, we're going through mental health issues right now. And when you go through mental health issues, there's only 4 things we resort to: sex, aggression, food, and drugs. And I love you, young man, because I've been through what you've been through. I'm not from the suburbs somewhere, not saying that they don't understand either. I am from Philadelphia just like you. I know what you went through with your mother not being around or your father not being around. I know what it feels like to try to gravitate to both sides of the fence because you're confused or you're trying to figure it out. You got to be that transparent.
You absolutely do. Absolutely.
And I wish I had that growing up
for you,
because it will make me a little bit more comfortable, right? And telling them that, life skills is not being taught in school because they don't want you to know life skills. They want you to be homeless, on drugs, and be a worker for the rest of your life. They don't teach you about being an entrepreneur. They don't give up those resources. So in my classroom, we can get social studies and we're going to get life skills.
That's good.
You want me to learn about trigonometry instead of learning about accounting and how to save money and get credit and this, that, and the third. No.
That's good.
And that's what I give them.
That's good. That's dope. Yeah. Awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. What's up, everybody? How are you? This is your girl, Zarina, and I'm inviting you to tune in every Saturday at 9:30 a.m. for Talking the Walk as we talk with real Christians, raw issues from a real God. Do you feel like people don't understand you? Do you feel like there's not enough transparency in your church, or even the factor that maybe you're just misunderstood? Tune in every week as we talk with live guests that will share their hearts with you each week. You can go to my website. You can like the page Talking the Walk Philly and keep up with me there. See you then. And thank you guys so much. We are still here with Brandon Chastain, and we were just speaking, actually the truth. I remember you had put something up on Instagram a while ago that kind of showed the school system and the prison system, and I thought that was very interesting, how they're pretty much institutionalizing these kids' minds and getting them prepared for prison per se. But before we get into that, I wanted to jump back into you sharing about you actually being addicted in your sobriety now, because it's a real interesting story, but it was a 10-year process for you to get to this point. You've been clean for a little over a year now, so congratulations on that. But jumping back into the beginning of the addiction, can you share a little bit, what was it about the drugs that actually pulled you in, and how did it make you feel? Was it something emotionally that you felt that you needed a void for that, and that you were using it for that? Share a little bit about that.
Well, okay, so growing up, if your father or your mother gave you a sip of beer or something, it was like, yo, it was normal.
Yes,
it was normal, right? It was like, okay, whatever. You may not have like a sip of liquor. That might have been a little too hard. But beer was like the easiest thing, right? And so as I get older, right, I said, well, you know what? I smoked some cigarettes, I smoked some weed. But as a kid, weed was like just something fun to do, right? But as I got into high school, I said, yo, this weed thing ain't for me. Because I'm starting to feel stupid, and I need to get into my swag, right? And I stopped. When I got to college, I still was drinking though. Like, it was like a periodically thing, nothing crazy. When I got to college, speeding up, my last year in college, someone introduced me to ecstasy pills. I took it once, and I didn't like the after effect.
Okay.
The after effect made me down and out. It made me feel bad about everything I did, right? And when I graduated from college, I got shot a month later. So now, speeding up, Percocets and E-pills, subconsciously, maybe if I found the same ingredients, I'm probably going to like it. And that's what I liked in Percocets.
Okay.
Percocets made me feel good. It made me feel smoother than what I was. It took away the mental pain and the physical pain of me being shot. So now, as I take it, I'm like, well, shit, I need a Percocet for my toothache. So I didn't know where to find Percocets after I ran out, after I've been held up. Oh, this is where the Percocet family is at. Oh, I got a hole in my tooth. I need a Percocet.
Wow. So okay.
And every little pain, not knowing that every little pain was easing up to withdrawal.
Wow, that's good.
So my back is hurting so bad. That's because I'm going through withdrawal and not knowing. And
that's interesting. That's
yeah,
good. That's good. I didn't even think about it like that.
In 2008, when I started getting like a large amount of money, that's when I was like, I'm addicted to Percocets, but didn't know. I wanted it so bad. I wanted more and more because it was the recreational thing to do now. Because I got around people that's doing it.
That's it. You hear people listen. Yeah, I know.
And not knowing that I was going through heavy withdrawal now. Wow. And why am I sweating? Why am my back aching? Why do I feel like I got restless leg syndrome? Why am I constipated?
Yo, I didn't even know all that was attached to that.
Right, and it is, and it's a dreadful feeling. And once you find out what's going on, and you're extra addicted to it now, I started taking Percocets for everything. Everything that I was going through, what I'm going through now, whatever the case may be. And I realized that me taking Percocets was a passive aggressive way to want to commit suicide.
Wow. So let's actually kind of stay in that place, because in the midst of that, life is still happening.
Yeah.
You have children. You
Oh,
have
yeah,
four
I'm-
beautiful
I'm-
children now.
Yes.
You have relationships and things of that nature going on. How did that addiction affect your parenting, your relationships, even when you talk about with your mom, because your mom was addicted and, you know, in her past, as well as your father. And now here it is, even though you might have not been using that drug of that choice,
Right.
you're still addicted. So just talk about a little bit in that season, how did your addiction affect your relationships and your parenting at that time? Because you see it so many times, and it's kind of like your kids is, in a sense of now, it's flipped over with them as well.
Well, I started to drift away, and from drifting away, I started to commit a lot of things that I've never done in life, from stealing to a lot of criminal activities to neglecting my children, stealing from my children,
Wow.
stealing from the relationship that I was in. It was real bad because that's all I wanted to do was get high. Every day, all day. Like if I wake up, a withdrawal starting, and now I need to get high. I need to take a pill to function first, and then I want to get high. So the pill was to get up and move around, and then it was like, okay, now it's time to get high now. So I was a junkie out here,
That's crazy.
and I was begging, I was borrowing. I think I did everything under the sun, but do something that, like, with another man or something like that to get what I want.
Wow. And that's, you know
And it
what,
happens.
But you know what I love about this is so many people take and attribute addictions to like smoking weed or coke or something like that. But perks is an addiction. You see a lot of people.
Well, it's an opioid.
Yeah, but they don't in the hood. They don't talk about it.
Why? Because it's a recreational thing. It's a cool drug.
Right. Exactly.
And the reality is that's a mental health issue. Drugs is a mental health issue. Because you're trying to take away the numb the pain of your past and your present.
And so in the midst of your addiction, you lose your mom.
Yeah.
And so how was that with your addiction when you lost your mom?
It made me want more.
Yeah.
Because now I'm thinking about the reality is she only has 14 years. She's 14 years older than me.
Right, yeah, she was young.
So I didn't experience my mother as a mother.
Okay.
Of the comfort. My mother was an alpha woman. So it wasn't no nurturing, like it was like tough love with her. But I wish we could have, I want you to live to see 60, 70,
Yeah,
80.
absolutely. She was young.
And she died in her late 40s. Excuse me. So, and she was addicted to pills too.
Wow.
Towards the end of like after it was like an on and off thing.
So you get back into your addiction, but now you're on the other side of your addiction and enters in sobriety and a sober messenger, and your relationship is restored with your children.
Yes.
You just speaking life into them. Also with your family, you talked about how you were abused as a child. Have you been able to restore that relationship with your father and your step grandfather as well?
Well, it's not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
After sometimes you got to be the bigger man. But how many times you got to be the bigger man?
I got you. Trust me.
After a while, it's just like you just got to just let it go.
Let it go.
Man. And I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable in my skin to know who I am and what I've been through and to deal with it. And it's not easy. It takes a lot of training.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of self-evaluation. It takes a lot of look in the mirror and like, are you going to keep this going?
Right.
Because nobody's going to care.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that I could, I'm able to restore relationships. More importantly, my children, everybody's happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was the turning point? What was the driving force? What was the decision? What did the decision day look like for you that said, you know what, this is it, I've had enough?
It was a couple, so I started adding, with the Percocets, I started adding Xannies to the Percocets. And that,
So you were building, okay,
right.
I got you.
And I realized, I said, you know what? In the back of my mind, I said, on my way to sleep, what if I don't wake up in the morning? And when I woke up in the morning, I wanted to do it again. So I realized that I wanted to commit suicide.
Yeah.
That was a passive,
planned,
it was a
yeah.
passive aggressive way of wanting to commit suicide. Along with my last 2 kids, their mother has always been strong with being on my side. I want to tell Aocean, thank you for raising my children. They'll be 10 and 5, May 24th and May 27th. I want to say thank you for helping me and being on my side through my trials and tribulations and my addiction. Thank you so much. She was there in my corner, and she never gave up on me. And she made the call like, listen, are you ready? And it should always be, are you ready? And I just say, you know what, I'm ready. And I went up to upstate New York for a rehabilitation program called Arms Acres. And she set it up for me, man. And I just want to say thank you to her.
And that's big of her, especially when you say, like, you know, a lot of people kind of get caught up in emotions when relationships are not, but she still had a love for you, the father of her children. She,
right.
You know, you want your child to experience the best life, and that's including their father. So that's awesome that she's able to put her emotions aside, whatever y'all went through.
Yeah, that was tough. I don't know how she did that because I know I was a handful.
That's awesome.
I did a lot of things to her during my addiction.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And you know, I just want to say thank you, and I love her for that.
That's awesome. So what we're going to do is we are going to take one more quick break, and we'll be right back.
No! You have rights. You have freedom. But you hate each other. You don't support each other. You can raise your family, but you don't want to. You kill each other and abuse drugs. You know what they did to me? They took me from my country and made me do things that I didn't want to do. They raped our women. And this is the things I get. I'm dying for you.
And thank you guys so much for keeping it locked. We are still here, and we've kind of come to the end of the show, but I've definitely got to bring you back because your story is awesome. And I know we haven't even tipped the iceberg on what you could share, but I think that it's dope that you shared that you had somebody, whether it was somebody that was praying for you that got you to that place or somebody that made the call. That's dope. So everybody, if you're listening, even for me, I have a brother where he's still in prayer, and sometimes I'll be like, look, I've had enough. But it just helps me to have hope to know that this is the other side of it.
Absolutely.
So here it is. We're on the other side. You have Bmcfly going and Sober Messenger going, and you have the skits and all of those things. So share a little bit, how do you get some of the inspirations and the things that you're doing, because it's real heavy, but I love that you're talking about suicide. The spirit of suicide is definitely heavy, and the enemy loves to play with people's minds and just kind of tell you don't need to be here, because it's really not about you. It's for who you will get to. Right. You are one person, but you never knew you would have all of those followers. So now you can understand why the warfare was so heavy. So share a little bit about what you're doing. Let people know what you're doing and what's the inspiration. How do you come up with those skits, actually?
Being sober.
Oh.
Like, listen to me. You got, listen, I've never knew that being sober, I probably would have thought I was crazy if I wasn't sober. Mm-hmm. But I think the norm is like do what everybody else doing, and being crazy is doing something out of the box. When they say sky's the limit, I say how, when after the sky is space out there. So it's enough room for me to, like, no thought is far-fetched. So when I was in rehab, I said, you know what, I'm gonna stay, because I thought about leaving. And I said, you know what, when I come out of rehab, I am going to bring something to social media that nobody on this planet is doing. And I'm still doing research trying to figure out if anybody's doing this, right? I got to make 1 minute turn into, it feels like an hour. And I said, I'm going to first talk about me. I'm going to face humiliation those who
Yeah.
I had to,
Very
I had
good.
to, when you put that out on social media, because everybody's living their best life, right? Cool. I embarrassed myself for the greater good.
That's good.
And, you know, I talked about how I was a deadbeat. I talked about how I was on drugs. I talked about how I always try to prove things to somebody. I talked about how we would say in the streets, you were a fraud. And that's who I was growing up, trying to be somebody that I wasn't. Not growing up in particular, but knowing that I'm not taking care of my children. So once I did that, okay, I got the attention now, right? Then I started to put awareness into social media. Well, what would you do if this is how kids are acting? I noticed that a lot of people hate lecturing. Like it's like, oh my God, here we go. We are visual
Very
learners.
visual, yeah.
So if I could paint the picture for you to see, maybe you could put yourself in that position and be like, damn, that's where I messed up at.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking about, and that's what I do. So when I direct and I act, I say, listen, we got to go to the furthest extent. No thought is far-fetched, I'm telling you.
I don't think people really understand how much transparency saves lives. That's what this show is for. It's called Talking the Walk, because it's getting out of the cliches of church isms and the I'm saved and I'm this, and it's like, all right, but what you been through though? Because that was why I started it, because I prayed about it. I was like, I don't hear nobody talking about what they've been through.
Right.
I hear Reverend such and such, and I love the Word of God. You know me.
Yeah, I know you do.
However, how you get there? Because I'm crying today, and you up there, you shouting for joy, and I'm mad. So something is missing in the middle. And so what you're doing is you're connecting the dots, and you're being that middleman, and that's extremely dope, which is why the warfare comes, because that's a lot of spiritual stuff that you're dealing with people that's dealing with generational stuff, and you're up there, you're trying to get them free. You already know you on the devil's hit list. So what are you working on now? Like, what are some of the things you're working on this season?
Well, bringing more awareness.
I really think you should write a book.
Well, that's what I want to do. I want to write a book. I want to give a PSA to, like, I want to speak like commercials, speaking on mental health, speaking on drug addiction.
Absolutely.
Because when you see these people on these commercials, it's like, yo, they look like actors. Now, I am an actor, but they look like actors, okay? Like, they don't look like they're going through something. You see a guy with a basketball looking around like, and then you hear a guy in the background like, are you feeling down? And it's no, I need to be on these commercials saying, I'm only a year and 3 months clean.
Yeah.
Every month I gave you 3 months clean,
Yeah.
7 months clean, a year clean. Oh, I am showing you, you're growing with me.
Yeah.
And you grew with me on social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember not having nothing in my apartment. Long as my kids can eat on the floor, I am a single father trying to do it on my own because I'm used to dealing with women, helping me, taking care of me. No, this is not easy. I cried when I cooked the chicken wings and burnt them. I'm trying to figure it out.
I'll read up.
So yes, I want to continue. I want to continue to give out awareness.
I love
Hopefully, I could be on a commercial, movie.
You will.
And this is for awareness and what I do.
So I have something for you, because one thing that I see that you do every day is you speak affirmations into other people. And one thing that we forget when we're pouring out all the times that we need to be poured into.
Right.
And so for me, this pretty much comes out of when, I don't know if you read this portion in the Word, but when Jesus talking to Simon and he asked him who he was to him. And everybody has that moment where they have like, yo, who am I? Like when you talk about you looking in the mirror. And so this is some of the things that God gave me to speak into your life because of what he desires to do. So the first is the fruit that you're producing brings great joy to God, your Father in heaven. Because you have written love and faithfulness on the tablet of your heart, you have favor with God. The Lord is good because you have experienced him and you're able to show empathy to others. And your kind words are sweet to the soul and healing to the bones of others. Also, last, do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord will personally go ahead of you, and he will be with you. He will neither fail you or abandon you. And I sat with the Lord, I prayed. I always do whenever I put my questions together for, and I ask him what he wants me to say to people. And that's what he gave to me for you. It's different scriptures all in there, but basically to speak affirmation, speak life into where you are going, because you're going to have a rough road. And I'm not speaking anything bad,
No,
but
I
what
get
you're
it.
doing is different. It is speaking life and healing into other people, and so the devil is mad. Let's just be clear. So don't be afraid of anything. It's going to look crazy. Anything that you need God to get through, that means that he sent you to do it. If you can do it by yourself, then he don't want you to do it. But if you need to pray and you really need to be like, yo, you know, you going to help me through this, he wants you to do it. But I see you on movie sets. I actually see you direct. I see it.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people around you are going to be healed because they want to see that you're serious. Because a lot of people don't take you serious when you first start. It's like,
Right,
oh,
of course
well,
not,
why
right.
are you doing this? Because,
You trying to get-
yeah,
yeah,
but then
right.
I, for myself, I remember when I left my job 3 years ago and everybody told me I was crazy. Now they see the fruit and they like, yo, go follow her on this. But you was the same person that told me I should be strapped to a chair 3 years ago.
Right, they're gonna think you're crazy.
Absolutely. So I'm just, you know, I definitely got you. You know, I'm always there. You can always call me. But definitely understand the role that you've been given is not an easy one, but he has a major plan for your life. I prayed about it. He showed it to me. I don't always share that with you. I won't tell you everything he showed me.
Right.
But when you get there, you're going to look back like this is what it was for.
Wow.
Understand that. And it's bigger than Philadelphia.
Right.
It is bigger than you.
Right.
There's a lot of people that need to hear your story. So congratulations
Thank you.
in advance. So if you are watching this, please understand that you're watching because God simply loves you. Just as he told you, he didn't think that he would be in this moment. But somebody prayed for him to get here, and exactly for him being is exactly for you. So if you are struggling, maybe you are addicted, maybe you're struggling in a relationship with a parent, or maybe you're just struggling overall with suicide, whatever your story may be, God simply just wants you to understand that he loves you and he led you to Brandon's story so you can understand that you're not alone. So if you haven't accepted Christ into your heart, you can simply say, Lord, I'm a sinner. I invite you into my heart. I thank you for Brandon's story and his transparency and all that he's taught me on today. I give you my life. I give you my heart, and I ask that you will help me to walk this out with you. And it is just as simple as that. Congratulations, and thank you for sharing your story. Where can they find you? Where can they keep up with all of the things that you are doing now and are about to do?
Okay, so if you're on Instagram, you can follow me on B dot, not the word dot, but the little period, B period, MCFLY _. Facebook and YouTube, Brandon Chastain, BRANDON CHASTANG.
Awesome. Please understand that he is bookable. I don't know if that's a word, but I say it all the time. So he could be booked today, tomorrow. That's a word. But he could be booked to come out and speak and share his story because ultimately he definitely has a story. He's very transparent. I've seen your videos on how you get the kids excited. So whether it's kids or if it's an adult, you can definitely book him and he will come out and he'll share his story. You can follow me on all platforms at Zarina Lomax. And you can simply, if you're interested in being a guest, you already know what to do. So thank you in advance. So I'm going to pray us out, and we're going to close out. So, Father God, in the name of Jesus, I just thank you for today. I thank you for Brandon's story, Lord. I thank you for his sacrifice. Lord, your word says that obedience is better than sacrifice. So, Father, I ask that you would open heaven, Father God, and favor him in all that you called him to do for his obedience. I thank you, Lord God, that he is not afraid of his testimony, Lord God, that he actually has embraced it. And I ask, Father God, that would be the cord to tie his family together and to unify them, to be with him as he goes to where he's going. I thank you for the lives that will be saved. I thank you for all the people that would be healed. And most importantly, we thank you that he is healed, Lord God, and he's walking in freedom. So we give you the glory, honor, and praise. It's in Jesus' name we pray. And thank you so much. We'll be back next week.
Thank you.